All right, thank you for joining our regular council meeting of Tuesday, December 13th. I've called us to order. We have an agenda in front of us. Mr. Coleman, any changes to the agenda?
Nothing from administration, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Looking for someone to move the agenda. Councillor Lewis, thank you very much. As presented, all in favor? Unanimous. We have two sets of minutes, so we'll look at November 22nd regular council meeting first. Looking for someone to move those. Councillor Wanchuk, any discussion, changes, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Now I'm going to look at the 2023 budget meeting. And again, this went over multiple days, but that is the list of minutes there. Councillor Scobie, thank you very much. Comments, questions, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous. At 1:30, we have an opportunity for anybody in the public who would like to present to council on an item that is not on the agenda, has the opportunity to do so. Is there anyone who would like to do that? Second call? Third call? All right, thank you very much. So we'll move over to 5A1, Ms. Bernand, with revised reserve value for 2022 tax sale December 21, 2022, 10 a.m. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Council Administration. So the report before you is revised reserve value for 2022 tax sale to be held December 21st. On October 11th, I brought a reserve report to you for a November 5th sale. On November 5th, the above parcel was offered for tax sale at public auction. The tax sale was recessed to December 21st as further investigation was required due to a title encumbrance that we required some legal advice on. Subsequently, some specific details affecting the property value were brought to the attention of the assessment department and reviewed by us. A revised reserve value has been determined taking into consideration the following. The property is a 1 acre parcel and the sales data for comparable properties in that area are very limited. The dwelling is uninhabitable and demolition will be required. Site cleanup will be required. The property has power to the site. The status of the water, septic, and gas services are unconfirmed. So due to that, data that I have available would suggest that a unserviced vacant lot value would be 100,000. Power services would be 10,000. So adding to that to 110, less the estimated demolition and cleanup costs of approximately 25,000 brings us to a land value of 85,000. The recommendation is before you to accept this revised reserve value.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions on the report or the recommendation before you? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. You had said that there was concerns brought to your attention. I guess my question would be who brought that to your attention in order for these numbers to be revised?
Some people who attended the auction who had more information about the property, and then the assessment department also did an inspection as far as we could on the property.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Great, looking for someone to put a motion on the floor. I'll move the recommendation that council accept the revised reserve valuation for the property and set the following terms and conditions: payment in cash, bank draft, or certified check, 10% deposit of reserve bid and balance within 30 days. Redemption may be affected by payment of all arrears of taxes and costs at any time prior to the sale, and Leduc County may, after the public auction, become the owner of any parcel of land that is not sold at the public auction, and then information on the roll. Any further comments or questions? And this is to be going on December 21st at 10 a.m. All right. I am seeing no comments or questions. All in favor? It is unanimous. Good luck this time.
Thank you.
All right, on to 5B, which is Ag Services, Municipal Lands for Agricultural Lease Agreements for 23 to 27. Mr. Broadbent, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Council. So before you is a recommendation that Leduc County Council enter into 5-year agricultural lease agreements of municipal reserve lands for January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2027. And subject to the acceptance of a 5-year crop rotational plan by the manager of agricultural services on land utilized for annual cropping with the following proposed lessees. So listed before you, Madam Mayor and Council, are the 25 applicants for the lease land. Just as a bit of background, all submissions of proposals to lease were reviewed at the December 6th, 2022 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting in camera in accordance with section 17, 24, and 25 of the FOIP Act. 26 municipal reserve parcels suitable for agricultural use were publicly advertised to request submissions of proposals to lease for 5-year period for that period of 2023 to 2027. Submissions were received from 25 of the 26 parcels. And for those parcels that were listed as suitable for annual cropping, a 5-year crop rotation plan will be required as a term of the lease agreement. And the lease agreement specifies terms to protect the land from mismanagement on the part of the lessee and sets out expectations for the control of weeds, insects, and disease. This is also a provision for termination of the lease by either party on a 30 days notice. So before you is the recommendation, Madam Mayor and Council.
Okay, thank you very much. We did have an opportunity to work through this in a previous meeting. Any questions? Just a comment, if I may. Certainly when you look through the lease agreement, it's pretty clear about what they can and cannot do, including, you know, not storing equipment, making sure that bales are removed from the hayland throughout the winter. So it seems to be a pretty comprehensive lease agreement that you're asking people to sign. It is great to see that this land will still be used for agriculture. Some of them are smaller pieces, like 8 acres, but 8 acres of hay for someone who needs some small hay is good use of the land. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, looking for. Okay, so we're not going to read all the sites out unless you want to. All right, go ahead. Oh, your microphone. Sorry, Councillor Scobie.
Okay, I'd move that Leduc County Council enter into a 5-year agricultural use lease agreement of municipal reserve lands from January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2027, and subject to an acceptance of a 5-year crop rotation plan by the manager of agricultural services on lands utilized for annual cropping with the list of the following proposed leases.
Okay, thank you. Motions on the floor. Looking for any debate, comments, or questions? I am seeing none. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. On to 5C1, which is fire services, bylaw, Leduc County Fire Services, repeal bylaw 1212.
Madam Mayor and Council, we were here in March and then at a workshop on October 11th to talk about modernizing our fire service bylaw. Earlier this year, we put into place a burning bylaw for Leduc County, and our current fire service bylaw has just been outdated and needs some updating. When we brought it to you at workshop, there was a few small editorials that you had recommended, which we've implemented. And I don't know if I need to go through this too much. We've been, I'm sure you've read it a few times.
Yeah, I think, well, if there's any questions, we will just open it up for any questions on the bylaw as it's presented. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Maybe just a comment on page 2 under section 3 of fire services. We should have done this before, but it's just the tense of D, E, and G. To me, just seem off on wording. Everything else is preventing, investigating. That one just says respond or provide. It should be providing. just as,
Just a little.
just to be picky.
Responding, providing.
When the document is that good, chief, you know, we are looking for the small pieces and commas and things.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I always leave an easy one for you.
You're very welcome. So we're looking for, if I have no other comments or questions on the document, I would look for someone to do first reading. Councillor Lewis will move first reading. Thank you. Comments, questions? All in favor? That's unanimous. Look for someone second reading. Councillor Balazer will move second reading on the bylaw. I'm not seeing any hands for comments, questions, or debate. All in favor? Go to third reading in the same day. Councillor Scobie, thank you very much. All in favor? And third reading. Councillor Smith? Councillor Smith will do third reading. And again, council has worked through this on a number of occasions with our fire chief in a number of our workshops. And so we are well aware of the contents and the meaning that's in there. So with that, all in favor? That is third reading. All right, do we need to make a repealing or is that all together? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Always.
Merry Christmas.
We're going to go down to department reports. Do we have anybody for those yet? Ms. Klamosko, where can we go? Because we're not at 2 o'clock yet for
I do have an item that I'm presenting. It would be 7C that I
Okay.
could go through that report.
7C, which is rescind number 4, motion number 25322 as it relates to meetings. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So the report we have in front of council this afternoon is to rescind a motion that was done within the organizational meeting that was setting the budget meeting dates for next year for the 2024 budget. So based on just completing our 2023 budget process and the timelines that we did in this year, administration wanted to put forward a recommendation to council to consider changing the dates from the 4 dates that are outlined in the report, which spanned over 2 weeks. And then also what occurred in our budget deliberation weeks this year, we also held workshops and regular council during that time, which was a very heavy budget meeting weeks that we had mixed in with our budget meeting. So we have a recommendation to change the dates that were set at organizational meeting, cancel the November 28th, 2023 council workshop and regular council meeting, and then schedule the 2024 budget meeting dates to 3 days within a 1 week period. So it would be proposed to be November 27th, November 28th, and then November 30th. So really in the background of the report, I just outlined a couple of reasons why administration was making this recommendation. And that would be, we believe it is a benefit to have having the budget meetings all within a 1 week period. We have historically been budgeting or planning for, I guess, 4 days of budget deliberations, but in the last number of years, we've only been utilizing 2.5 days. And I would say I was a little bit generous with saying 2.5. We were really close to 2 days. So I think with the 3 days being planned still gives us adequate time if additional discussion is required. That I don't believe we're rushing through deliberations, but we have a good amount of time set aside. And then again, I just spoke to the challenge of having budget deliberation meetings in the same week as council workshops and regular meetings. And we also had a municipal policy review committee meeting that week. So it was a very heavy week of a lot of information. So that is the recommendation we have for council today.
Okay, thank you very much. Comments or questions? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Just in your recommendation, you had mentioned setting budget for 2024, and I believe it should be 2023.
It's actually that
For the
we have the
2024
meetings in
budget.
2023 for the budget of 2024. Because we just passed the 2023 budget in 2022. It is the wonder of this time of year where we never know what year we're in. Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed. I will just make a comment. I appreciate the 3 days on the same week. I believe that once we get into budget, we really have a different mindset, both as council and as administration. And if we can work through it in 1 week, I think it really helps with the continuity. Administration is absolutely outstanding at answering questions and making sure that as we move through it, we understand the pieces we're working with. And we do a significant amount of work ahead of time, ahead of the actual meetings, both in committee, usually in committees, to talk about some of those things. So I'm very much in support of the recommendation to change those pieces. So I'm looking for someone to put a motion on the floor. Councillor Blaser will move the recommendation as presented. I don't, that's fine. All right, so recommendation, the motion is on the floor. The recommendation is in the report. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Weiss, thank you for coming in. I'm going to call you up right now, and we're going to go to 7B1, which is policy FS04, corporate credit cards. So as soon as you're settled in and ready to go, the floor is yours.
7B1. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Yeah, so I'm here today. I actually have a number of them, but I'll start on the first one, which is our corporate credit card policy update. So every 4 years, we review the corporate credit card policy. It has gone through the Municipal Policy Review Committee, and it was recommended that it come to Council for approval. So for the most part, a lot of the updates that were done to this, sorry, let me rephrase that. So the corporate credit card policy, it provides direction to administration on the issuance of corporate credit cards within the organization. So a lot of the updates that have been done were fairly minimal as far as updates to terminology, additions to a definition section. The biggest change that council will see here is actually a recommendation that we increase the number of cards from 12 to 40. What we found as we were starting to try to implement this is that the employees who needed to do the purchasing weren't going to get a credit card because of our limited amount of cards that we were issuing. So in order to meet the needs, we'd like to issue more, 40 as opposed to 12, without increasing that global limit. And that will allow us to target the individuals and the employees who actually do the purchases on a day-to-day basis. So I'll just go into the policy a little bit. I wasn't planning on going through it. Okay, I'm seeing Ms. DeBlanco.
Required. I mean, people will, if there's questions, hit the highlights, and there's questions, council. We've already gone through the policy review committee with it. So
perfect. So yeah, the biggest change, like I said, is in that policy standards where we're increasing to 40 corporate cards. And then we also added number 2, that individual credit cards won't exceed individual signing authority as set out in this signing authority policy. Those are the biggest changes.
okay. Thank you. And we're reviewing this once every 4 years. So every council will have an opportunity to look at this, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any further questions? Anything from the policy review committee? Councillor Scobie is the chair there. Anything further?
Nothing further. I think she explained that was about all it was a change to the number of cards to help with people that need to do the purchasing, not having to buy it on their own cards and get reimbursed, and just to smooth out the operation.
Would you be willing to make that motion?
I would move that.
Okay. Leduc County Council approved the corporate credit card policy FS04. Have we had any problems with credit card misuse?
Not yet. No, not yet. Sorry.
Not
No, no.
We're planning on it.
We have a solid admin directive that we're following.
Sorry, I kind of surprised you with that question. All right. We have a motion on the floor. No more trick questions for Ms. Weiss. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right. On to, I believe you're next.
I do. Yes, I have.
Which is request to waive property tax penalty roll. And it's there.
That is correct. So the next one is a request to waive property taxes for an individual. This particular, the letter is The email is attached here. They just specified that they explained they missed the payment date and the payment was actually made on July 4th. To date, there have been no payments made on the account since that July 4th. And so administration's recommendation is that we deny the request to cancel the tax penalties in order to adhere to the penalties on current and arrears of property tax bylaw.
Hey, Counselor Smith. Oh, your microphone, sir? That's okay. We can just leave them on. I don't think it creates an issue.
I'd like to make the recommendation
You can do it.
that Leduc County Council deny the request to cancel the tax penalty in the amount of $397.78 on roll 1120113.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on that? And again, I see in our administration has no evidence that any payment has been made to date.
That is correct.
All right. No hands are up. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. 7B3.
Okay, so this one is also a request to waive property taxes for 3 different rolls. So this one, the landowner interpreted the final complaint date on the tax notice. The final complaint date was July 19th. They interpreted that as the due date. And as a result, they made payment on July 14th instead of June 30th. They did pay their penalties and they were received in full on October 24th in order to avoid additional penalties. So similar to the last one, administration recommends that county council deny the request to cancel tax penalties of $7.50 on roll 57040, $11.87 on roll 59000, and $132.42 on roll 60000 for totaling $151.79.
Thank you. All right, looking for comments or questions? I don't believe we've ever changed our tax due date, have we?
No, not in my history here.
Okay. So, Councillor Lewis.
I'll put a recommendation on the floor that Leduc County Council deny the request to cancel tax penalties of $7.50 on roll 57040, $11.87 on roll 59000, and $132.42 on roll 60000, totaling $151.79.
Thank you. Motions on the floor. Any further comments, questions, or debate? I am seeing none. All in favor? Okay. We still have a little bit of time, so we'll move to 7B4, accounts receivable write-off.
Okay, so we'll change directions a little bit here. So each year we review, finance reviews our list of accounts, what's outstanding in 3 different areas: accounts receivable, taxes, and then the bulk water kind of utilities area. And so the first one that comes up is accounts receivable. We have reviewed it. As you can see, there's several quite old accounts that are outstanding. A lot of these, all of them have gone to collections with the exception of 2. And so collections has exhausted their efforts. And so that's what they've responded back to us. So for each of these accounts, we actually have quite a process that we do. We do several calls, usually minimum is 2. We'll do a statement, then we do a warning letter in conjunction, and then a second collection letter, and then we'll send it to collections, and collections will do their processes. When they've done theirs, they respond back to us and say, this is uncollectible. We've exhausted all of our efforts. And so that is what we're seeing here is all but 2 of them were sent to collections. They've exhausted theirs. The one that wasn't sent is actually account 21727. So it's the one for $13,000. And it was actually part of an orphan well, and it had a linear write-off in 2020 as well. And so that's why this one never went to collections at this point. They're bankrupt. And then the second one that didn't go is specifically someone who passed away, folded the business, and so we've exhausted our internal efforts there. So we are looking to write off a total of $34,685.68. Each year, we go through an accounting exercise and we set up what we think is going to be uncollectible. And so our uncollectible at the end of last year, we had estimated it to be $81,434. So we are looking, we got a little bit less than what we were anticipating during last year end. So.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Lewis.
Thank you. I guess for a motor vehicle accident, why wouldn't, how do we not be able to collect that through their insurance?
So some of them are, if they're not covered by insurance, for example, or if a family member takes someone's car and drives it into a ditch or something like that, we need to collect from, if it's not able to be from the insurance company, we collect from the individual, or we try to.
What percentage of, what's our success rate? And you might not be able to answer this now. And if you can't, then, please just email us. What's our success rate when we go to collection?
Less than 10%.
Less than 10%. So actually, once we've exhausted all of our efforts, it really is an exhaustion of efforts.
Yeah, very few. I think since my time here, when we started doing collections, I can probably count on one hand the numbers that we've received from the collections agency. Where it is nice is it does put that record on,
Absolutely.
excuse me, on that person's file. There is a dollar limit though to collection agencies as well, where if it's less than, I believe it's $150, they won't even report it to the credit bureau. So.
Fair. All right. Looking for someone to make a motion. There is a motion to approve the write-off of the following accounts: receivable balances of $34,685.68 for the years 2012 to 2021. Councillor Wanchuk will move that. Thank you. It is regrettable that it's that much, but probably other municipalities have more. Looking for any comments, questions, or debate? And I'm seeing none. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Coleman, we're 3 minutes to. Should we do one more or get set up for public hearing? What's your advice?
I think it's a fairly straightforward one, Madam Chair. We can probably do one more.
Okay, 7B5, property tax write-off, Ms. Weiss.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes. No, just
okay. I'll talk fast. So this is the property tax write-off. We are looking for approval to write off $78,409.89 for that list of accounts that's on your screen. The majority of these are older accounts also. What you're actually seeing is a few of the older airport leases where somebody moved in and they moved out right away. Airport has not been able to do their collections. We work in conjunction with them on these, and we're not able to collect it. It's been sent to collections and they're exhausted. There is one on here that is an orphan well as well. Roll 8927500. That one is an orphan well. And so with the orphan wells, one thing to keep in mind is even though we write it off in 1 year, the province can continue to assess them. So we'll keep having these assessments until the province stops assessing them. And then there's 2 in there. The center 2 are actually GPOT, grants in place of taxes, and municipal affairs has advised that they will pay at 50% of those 2 accounts. And the remaining 4 are all mobile home owners in the New Sarepta area. There was one that had a fire. There's another one who's also on the utilities write-off, who we've exhausted our efforts, and yeah.
Okay, any questions on the accounts that are here? Or questions on our process for writing off tax account balances? I am seeing none. Looking for a motion to be put on the floor. Councillor Balazer. Okay, the county council approved the write-off of $78,409.89 dated December 13, 2022 for the following tax count balances, and they are in the table. Any questions, comments, debate? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. We are at 2:00 now, so we are going to head back. Thank you very much, Ms. Weiss, for your flexibility in coming down or across the hall, I guess. We are going to move to 6A, which is a public hearing, bylaw number 2022, second and third readings. So again, this is a public hearing. Council is here to listen to the information presented and make a decision on the matter. And our 2:00 public hearing is to repeal bylaw 3011, Leduc County / City of Leduc IDP. This is a formal hearing and not a debate. Everyone wishing to speak who has pre-registered will be given an opportunity to speak once on the matter as called on by myself, the chair. Each presenter must state his or her full name, address, their interest in the matter, whether they are in support or non-support. Individuals who do not identify themselves will not be given an opportunity to speak. Presenters are asked to stay within the 5-minute time limit of the presentation and are encouraged when speaking to keep the presentation to the point and refrain from restating points raised by previous speakers if possible. If new presentation materials are provided, you may be required to email a copy to our legislative coordinator. I'll now ask Ms. Johnson to introduce the hearing. Ms. Johnson.
So good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. This public hearing was advertised in the local newspaper in accordance with Leduc County policy and in accordance with the provisions of the MGA. Internal departments and external agencies were notified of the public hearing and bylaw 2022 to repeal bylaw 30-11, referred to as the City of Leduc, Leduc County IDP, which is subject of this appeal hearing, was made available on the county's website. No responses to the public hearing referral were received. In late 2021, the county received notification from the City of Leduc that the City Council voted in favor of repealing the City of Leduc, Leduc County IDP. While the county expressed the desire to retain the IDP, City Council was intent on repealing the IDP. As such, County Council waived the requirement for mediation, and on August 22nd, 2022, City Council gave third reading to the bylaw to repeal the IDP. The repeal of the IDP by the City of Leduc has rendered the IDP inoperative and ineffective. With this understanding, Leduc County Council gave first reading to bylaw 2022 to repeal bylaw 3011, referred to as the City of Leduc, Leduc County IDP, on November 22nd. The repeal of the IDP is exempt from referral to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board as it does not meet the criteria of the regional evaluation framework that requires referral to the EMRB. Moving forward, Leduc County and City of Leduc administrative staff will prepare amendments to the respective MDPs to address policies that may be required in the absence of the IDP. So subject to the input received at this public hearing, administration recommends council give second and third reading to bylaw 2022 to repeal bylaw 3011, referred to as the City of Leduc, Leduc County IDP, and amendments thereto.
Thank you. Any questions for administration? I am seeing none. Have we received any further correspondence on this?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
We have no speakers. Is that correct, Ms. Gavin? No speakers. Is there anyone here today who would like to speak for in favor or against in the public hearing that we have now? Call a second time. And a third time, seeing no one. Any further questions for our administration? And again, we've had an opportunity to work through this in camera, in workshops, in meetings. Council is very aware of the issue and what's the repealing means. And again, unfortunate that it could be unilateral like it was, but we are in the situation where we're ready to do perhaps second and third reading to bylaw 2022. So with that, any other questions, comments? Looking for someone to do second reading? Councillor Scobie? Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. We're going to close the public hearing. Thank you very much. Now we're going to debate. All right, ready for debate? I'm seeing none. Councillor Scobie, sorry, questions?
Just question, the recommendation says that we hold a public hearing to receive both. Are we just moving second and third reading?
Mr. Coleman, there are two pieces in the recommendation box on our,
So we've just concluded the public hearing. Now you can proceed with second and third reading, Madam Chair.
okay. So Councillor Scobie will move second reading. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Debate? All in favor? And third reading, Councillor Wachuk, your hand was up for second reading, so I will put you on third reading. You're welcome. Debate? Seeing none, all in favor? That is unanimous. All right, thank you very much. We have a second public hearing, so I will open our second public hearing. Oh.
Madam Chair, procedurally, it's time specific to 2:15, so
We're
you can open
through
them
that
late, but
fast.
you can't open them early.
All right, is Miss Weiss still here? No. Mr. Coleman, will we just take a quick, or do you have a recommendation?
Chair, maybe a plan to deal with.
Seven. I was thinking that 7A2 direct control application, Ms. Haberland. So 7A2, page 334 of your package. This one's mine right now. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So planning and development bring forth for consideration a direct control development permit. It is located in the Nisku Business Park in Northeast 1950, 24 west of the 4th. It's a familiar site to yourselves. It was in front of council a couple of months ago regarding an addition to the building. The applicants have applied for an expansion of the yard site for outdoor storage of approximately 99,000 square meters. The subject parcel is located south of Highway 625 adjacent and just west of the Vista residence. Land use district, of course, is direct control. That's why it's in front of consideration for council. The referral map, which just shows the area that we did send the application to. Planning and development did not receive any comments from any of the adjacent landowners regarding the proposal. So the subject lands are located within the park. The access is located at the south of the property from 17th Avenue. The total area of the parcel is approximately 62.99 acres. The direct control area is completely outside of the Black Mud Creek flood extent boundary. And the parcel is located in the Black Mud Creek area structure plan identified as business park development. The application itself is to add additional outdoor storage area for an industrial use for pipe storage. And offsite levies are owing on the subject parcel for the remaining development. The policies support the application in front of us today due to that there is no impact on the surrounding lands and we received no adjacent landowner comments. Planning and development do have a set of conditions for consideration for council. In addition to the conditions that you do have in front of you, I have added an additional condition regarding the offsite levy. It's under a development agreement, which will be added to condition number 6. This is the subject parcel, just giving you an idea of what it looks like. This is to the north, where it will be extended. This is to the north as well. Therefore, planning and development do recommend approval and open to answering any questions regarding the conditions that are in front of you.
All right. Any questions on the recommendation? Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. I don't have any concerns, just a question on if any applicant or a permit goes against one of the conditions, who would someone call? Because I've had calls for businesses in Nisku. Someone saying, for example, there's no outdoor sandblasting. Who would someone call? Who could we direct them to call?
So any concerns now we would do to report a concern, which is on our website. And you can actually scroll down and pick the topic that you're wanting to report. And that's where I would suggest people to go now because we're tracking them.
Okay.
Of course, alternative is always to call planning and development as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions on the development permit? Just a question, if I may, on condition 7. Idling of trucks shall be kept as a minimum. So that's a subjective kind of piece. So how would we measure that, or what are we thinking, or what's our conversation been with the company around what does that mean?
So no, Madam Chair, we haven't had any discussions with them directly due to the idling itself, other than in the past, of course, they did have trucks going in and out. We would just respect that they know that there is noise when they are idling and that they keep it to a minimum just due to the vistas in the east.
Absolutely. And again, it's in their best interest to work within these conditions, because no complaints ensures longer life in the park. Go ahead, Councillor Lewis.
And further to that, there are no residents speaking out against this, which is showing that they're being good neighbors and following any existing permit conditions that they would have.
Through Madam Chair, yes, there was no adjacent landowner comments received.
All right. So looking for someone to make the motion for direct permit application D22-294. Councillor Lewis will, and you do not have to read all the conditions. So we have a motion on the floor to approve with the conditions that have been provided, and a couple of them have been discussed. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And we will go to 7A3 because we're at 2:13 and we can start late, but not early. So we'll go to 7A3 direct control D22270. And Ada, is this yours?
Yes.
Whenever you're ready, sir, you can begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Council. This DP application D22270 is proposed within a direct control district. The application is proposing a 2,500 square feet business office and a 19,100 square feet warehouse to operate a truck storage and maintenance business. The aerial images shows the location of the property in the business park. The parcel is currently vacant. The land use district in this area, there are about 4 land use districts, industrial, direct control, country residential, and agriculture. Agriculture is in that middle, which is provide kind of buffer between the business park and the residential areas in the vistas. Application was referred to internal departments and the residents in the vistas and adjacent landowners. We haven't received any comments from the residents of the vistas.
Thank you.
We just got some comments from engineering department with regards to submission of a servicing plan and a lot grading plan. Here is a brief summary of the proposed development, which is a truck storage and maintenance. So will be operated from this property. There is a location, legal address and the municipal address. It's the parcel is in direct control. The applicant and landowner information is provided. The subject lands are located within the Nisku Business Park and so south of Highway 625 and east of 9th Street. The property is directly accessed from 13th Street. The parcel is 3.41 acres and zone direct control. Different area structure plans, policies are applicable. The most specific one is Black Mud Creek ASP, which guides the development in this area. This parcel is outside of the flood extent map. The residential subdivision of Linda Vista is across the ravine. As mentioned earlier, the current application is for a business office and warehouse to operate a trucking business and provide services such as truck repairs, dispatch, and outdoor storage. So the proposed development is comprised of the business. The hours of operation which submitted with the application is 9 to 5. Saturday and Sunday will be closed. The current DC district has no specific land use uses and development standards. The Black Mud Creek area structure plan, Nisku major employment structure plan, municipal development plan, and Edmonton Metropolitan Regional Growth Plan. Those are the plans which are relevant to this development. The policies of those plans support this application. Nisku MEC identifies the subject land within the Nisku Central area, and which is historically the core sector for area for the energy sector, manufacturing and light industrial. Some of the design policies requires buffering and landscaping. Under the Black Mud Creek ASP, there are some controls being mentioned in that ASP, which respect to noise, dust, vibration, heavy volume of traffic, and screening of outdoor storage. Since this is a trucking business, there might be some heavy traffic but due to the proximity, like the lot itself is, there is a, you can see those trees in the backyard, in the rear yard. Those are kind of provide some screening to the area from this lot to the vistas. There is about approximately 800 meter distance between the lot and the properties in vistas. Operational conditions will further mitigate any potential impact this development may have. This is the site plan. So total of 35 parking stalls are being provided. The 40% site coverage is being mentioned in the Black Mud Creek ASP, and this is meeting that requirement. There is a 32.8 feet height restriction in the ASP, which this development meets. Business information sheet are provided and are attached to this application. A total of 17, the Planning and Development Administration recommends that development permit application D22-270 be approved subject to the following condition. We have placed about 15 conditions on this permit.
Through Madam Chair, I would like to add one additional condition, please. Due to the comments from Public Works and Engineering, the applicant shall enter into a development agreement for a servicing plan and security deposit for the paved access. That'll be condition number 16.
Okay, thank you. Questions? I have a question and apologize because I should be up on my acronyms, but I am not. Page 150 under engineering and utilities, the ACRWC should provide comments as the site plan shows asphalt within the ACRWC URW.
Through Madam Chair, condition number 5 addresses the Alberta Capital Region Wastewater Commission right of way.
And that's the URW is the right of way?
Yes.
Thank you. Apologize for not being able to read more. I'm trying to be good at planning acronyms, but I don't have them all down yet. All right, thank you. Any further questions? I am seeing none. Looking for then a motion to be put on the floor if we have no questions. Councillor Balazer. We recommend the development permit application D22-270 be approved, subject to the following conditions with the, you do not have to. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Motions on the floor? Any debate? I am seeing none. I will call the question. All in flavor. Must be getting hungry. That's unanimous. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Just keep up to where I am. We're going to move to our second public hearing. I will open that now at 2:21. Council is here to listen to the information presented and make a decision on the matter that is the subject of the hearing, which is to repeal bylaw 0518, Leduc County Wetaskiwin IDP, 2, repeal bylaw 3318, Leduc County Wetaskiwin ICF, and 3, approved by resolution the ICF with County of Wetaskiwin. This is a formal hearing and not a debate. Everyone wishing to speak who has pre-registered will be given an opportunity to speak once to the matter as called upon by myself as chair. Each presenter must state his or her full name, address, their interest in the matter, including whether they are in support or non-support. Individuals who do not identify themselves will not be given an opportunity to speak. Presenters are asked to stay within a 5-minute time limit of the presentation and are encouraged when speaking to keep the presentation to the point and refrain from restating points raised by previous speakers if possible. If new presentation materials are provided, you may be required to email a copy to the legislative coordinator. I will now call on Ms. Johnson to introduce the subject of the hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to be clear, there's 4 parts to administration's recommendation. The first is that council hold this public hearing that we're holding right now. And that's to receive both written and oral submissions for bylaw 1822. That's the bylaw to repeal bylaw 5-18, the Leduc County Wetaskiwin IDP. And then as well, the bylaw 1922, a bylaw to repeal 33-18, the ICF between Leduc County and County Wetaskiwin. Once the public hearing is closed, subject to the input received, administration is recommending that council give second and third reading to bylaw 1822, which is to repeal the IDP, and then subject to, again, to the input received, that council gives second and third reading to bylaw 1922, which is the repeal of the ICF. And then lastly, subject to repealing the ICF, that council take and approve the updated ICF by resolution. So that's administration's recommendation. This public hearing was advertised in the local newspaper in accordance with Leduc County policy and in accordance with the provisions of the MGA. As mentioned, there's 2 bylaws that relate to this public hearing. Bylaw 18-22, again, that's the repeal of the IDP, and bylaw 19-22, which is the repeal of the ICF. Internal departments and external agencies were notified of the public hearing, and the 2 bylaws were made available on the county's website. At the time of writing the report, I did not receive any comments or concerns, but since that time, I have received comments from Brazeau County. They have indicated they have no comments or concerns with either of the bylaws. So the bylaws to repeal the IDP and ICF were given first reading by Leduc County Council on November the 22nd. County of Wetaskiwin Council gave first reading to their bylaws to repeal the IDP and ICF on November 15th. This morning, the County of Wetaskiwin held a public hearing to receive submissions regarding their bylaws to repeal the IDP and ICF. The public hearings were followed by second and third reading, as well as the approval of the updated ICF by resolution. So with respect to the IDP, it's recommended the IDP be repealed as the MGA no longer requires municipalities that have common boundaries and where both are not members of a growth plan to adopt an IDP with each other if they agree they do not require one. And then repealing the IDP would remove one layer of policy that can be effectively addressed through the respective MDPs. The repeal of the IDP is exempt from referral to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board as it does not meet the criteria of REF, the Regional Evaluation Framework. Following the repeal of the IDP, Leduc County and County of Wetaskiwin administrative staff will work together to prepare amendments to the respective MDPs. One, to revise referral timeline for discretionary permits from 21 days to 14, as recommended by the Intermunicipal Liaison Committee. And then as well, any other policies that may be required in the absence of the IDP. With respect to the ICF, it's recommended it be repealed and updated, and the updated ICF be approved by resolution to streamline future reviews of the ICF. The updates to the ICF are shown on the red line version included in your package. Just of note, there was two changes for the Intermunicipal Liaison Committee. When you last saw it, there were two items missing: planning and development services and economic development services. They were not listed in the independently provided municipal services. We've added those. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's the only change that the Intermunicipal Liaison Committee has not seen. So following the repeal of the ICF and approval of the updated ICF by resolution, the Intermunicipal Liaison Committee will be required to review the ICF at least once every 4 years, commencing no later than 2026. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have regarding the proposed repeal of the IDP or the ICF.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I have a question, Ms. Johnson. By repealing the IDP, are we losing any opportunity to work collaboratively with the County Wetaskiwin? And that's the same with the ICF, moving it to a motion as away from a bylaw to resolution. Do we lose anything?
No, as you're well aware, we've had good working relations with the County of Wetaskiwin. There's a number of different forums, including the ICF, as you mentioned, to discuss any land use servicing concerns on an ongoing basis.
So it's a formality. And were we not just required to do ICFs as required by the provincial government?
Yes, we're required to have an ICF for sure. There was an amendment to the MGA, I believe it was about a year ago. Initially, ICFs had to be adopted by resolution. Now they allow them to be approved by, they had to be adopted by bylaw. And now they allow them to be approved through resolution. And that just streamlines the process. And that's why we're recommending that it be through resolution as opposed to by bylaw.
So cutting a little bit of red tape off the end.
That's correct.
Okay. Any further questions? Great. And again, we had an opportunity to meet with the council from the County of Wetaskiwin and had great discussion, as well as an opportunity for the committee to meet and discuss about this. I'm glad to hear that they were able to go through their public hearing. Do you know if they had any people who wanted to speak or who approached the public hearing in Wetaskiwin?
Yeah, no one was registered to speak. Nobody spoke on behalf of the repeal.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions before I see if we have anyone to speak? I'm seeing no one. Have we received any last minute correspondence on this matter, Mr. Coleman?
None whatsoever, Madam
We have
Chair.
not. Do we have anyone registered to speak? We have no one registered to speak. Anyone here today would wish to speak for or against? I'll call twice. Anyone here wish to speak for or against the repeal of the IDP and the ICF? And a third time. I am seeing no one coming forward. Any further comments or questions for our administration before I close the public hearing? Because I know I need to do that. I'm seeing none. Thank you very much. We'll close the public hearing at 2:30 and open the floor for some debate, or put a motion on the floor and we can debate that. Councillor Lewis.
I'd be happy to move second reading.
Second reading to repeal bylaw 1822, which is the IDP.
Correct.
Okay. No hands up for debate. All in favor? Okay, looking for third reading to repeal 1822, which is the IDP with the County of Wetaskiwin. Councillor Wanchuk. Okay, comments, questions, debate? Seeing none, all in favor? That's it. We now need to look towards bylaw 1922, which is the ICF, or intermunicipal collaboration framework between Leduc County and the County of Wetaskiwin. Looking for someone to put second reading. Councillor Balazer, thank you very much. Any comments or questions? None, all in favor? And third reading to repeal bylaw 1922. Yes. The ICF between the County of Wetaskiwin and the County of Leduc. I will move that one. Oh, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Lewis will put her name to that. All in favor? Thank you. Final one is to approve by resolution the updated intermunicipal collaboration framework between Leduc County and County of Wetaskiwin. I will move that. I think it's an easier way to get the work done without having to go through bylaw. Thank you. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Okay, we're done. I think. Are we done? Thank you. Okay, and pretty close to being on time. We are going to go to 7A. One, which is planning and development bylaw, first reading for the Southern Country Residential Area Structure Plan. And I don't see Ben. Are you taking Ben's place today, Mr. Evans?
Yes, Madam Chair, Ben fell ill over the weekend, so unfortunately I'll have to step in for him. My apologies in advance.
No, I'm sure you will do this handily.
So Madam Chair, this report is recommending first reading of the Southern Country Residential Area Structure Plan. A little background on this project. In December 2019, Leduc County and AV Exterior Homes entered into a memorandum of understanding to jointly contract V3 Companies of Canada to prepare an area structure plan for the southern portion of the country residential area as outlined in the county's municipal development plan. The vision for the plan area is to protect natural features, limit the impact of development on existing agricultural lands until such time as market demand is established for country residential development. A little background on the public engagement and stakeholders strategy. An initial multi-phased engagement approach was undertaken prior to the initial public hearing. Those included virtual engagements sessions in the fourth quarter of 2020 and the second quarter of 2021. We then held a public hearing in May of 2021 and then conducted a series of council workshops between July 2021 and summer of 2022. An additional engagement was held in November of this year, so just last month, to educate the public on changes within the draft documents since the previous public hearing. That included a video presentation explaining the changes and a copy of the revised draft ASP. That was made available on the project website between November 3rd and November 25th. An online feedback form was available during that time. The project team's contact information was available for direct communication, and a letter was sent out to affected landowners notifying them of the proposed changes and how they could provide feedback. Mr. Nick Price is here from V3 Companies today to give a presentation on the document itself. I will just summarize that the ASP has been revised to align with feedback from both the public and council in two significant ways. The first is that the eastern portion of the plan area has been, excuse me, identified as a reserve area, which allows for future country residential development when either piped water and septic services are available or the initial plan area is fully developed. And then secondly, it provides greater clarity regarding the expected servicing for the plan area. So in the plan area, private services that don't rely on trucked water and wastewater will be permitted. So I'll pass it over to Nick now if that's okay with council, and he'll go through the plan.
Whenever you're ready. Oh, we're just going to switch over, okay?
Good afternoon, Council. Madam Chair, thank you for hearing me today. What I'll do is I'll just go through sort of where we've been and at the end take any questions and just mention some of the changes specifically that have taken place. So first of all, just a reminder around where the plan sits and in context as, you know, red tape comes about. Oh, what happened there? Sorry, I'm going to go back something. Hopefully this doesn't automatically go as a slide, but this just gives context of where the planning document sits in terms of the planning's like that layers of cake, and it's got to sort of all align. So you'll see the green areas, obviously the area structure plan, and that's driven through your municipal development plan, the Edmonton Metropolitan Regional Growth Plan, and obviously the Municipal Government Act. Subsequent to it, if it's adopted, the next steps would be outline plans, subdivision regulation, and compliance with any land use. So the vision goals, the SCARS, basically the vision here was for it to protect the natural features and limit the impact on existing agricultural lands until market demand for country residential development is needed. That over the long term will create a financially resilient community. The goals mitigate the impact and protect the natural waterways, wetlands and natural vegetation where possible, to identify effective and efficient services for future residential development, provide where suitable the provision for neighbourhood commercial activities to support local residential market, to capitalise on environmental reserves through the creation of public trail systems, to provide servicing in a fiscally sustainable manner and to limit the impacts of trucks required to service residents in managing provisions of water and wastewater, to enable development to occur in contiguous manner, building off existing country residential development, to require a greater level of detail analysis and planning through the requirement for outline plans prior to development, to create an effective and efficient and safe transportation network, to manage stormwater through the area structure plan to avoid any increase in runoff resulting from additional development, to mitigate the impact or protect key archaeological sites within the SCARS, to limit the fragmentation of agricultural lands until such time as market demand for country residential development is needed. Subsequent to each of those is obviously the policy, which is the implementation as we move forward. As what was mentioned, in last November, we did some further engagement. This is sort of a summary, but I'm assuming you've all seen the What We Heard report. It's fairly comprehensive and it provides a response to all the comments that were received, but just some key things that we heard. The importance of a trail system as the development unravels, municipal services versus maintaining traditional on-site servicing, potential loss of agricultural lands, the impression of creating a town based on per capita density, concern with increased traffic, impact on existing systems, septic tanks, holding tanks and truck-based services to existing development acreages, preserving environmentally significant lands. So the development concept that was developed looked to try and protect, obviously recognize where through details of environmental assessment where potentially significant waterways were, environmental features, and we tried to work around the concept plan around this. Now, obviously this is our high level showing sort of major roads and potentially minor roads that could change when you get down to an outline plan, but the major roads would effectively stay. We also incorporated, you'll see at the bottom southern, at the northern, at the intersections, the opportunity for some neighborhood commercial. So that would be potentially your local corner sort of store. Parks, open space and environmental reserve, and then, as I mentioned, the transportation. These were areas identified both from a wetland point of view, but also from a watercourse and then forestry point of view. So it's a combination of all three elements. A lot of it was related to wetlands and watercourses as being potential environmentally significant areas. Determining those, I should mention, would be further analysed when you get down to the outline plan. Stormwater management plans. So the idea here was try and use really LID approach or natural wetlands for stormwater management where possible. So low impact, it's sort of an increasing approach to development. It's a better way to manage stormwater through using the natural systems, and that the approach is what has been put in policy here in moving forward. Plan implementation. Obviously, if the plan is adopted, I'd say at least 50 plus years, just given the growth rate and development, the cost of going through. Just if you look how long it's taken us and working on the area structure plan, then you go to an outline plan. It's going to take a while to actually fully develop out. So if the area structure plan is adopted, then the landowners would have to do an outline plan, which effectively is like a mini area structure plan. You have to do all the detailed analysis, but more focused on the one area. And then there's development phasing to make sure that we don't result in fragmentation of the lands. So what are the changes since we last presented? The first one is looking at, I think it's Range Road, sorry, it's 24, I get that right, 247. I gotta make sure I get my range roads right. Otherwise I'm gonna get, just want to make sure I put this correct. Yeah, 237, right? 233, 232, Range Road 232. So Range Road 232 is that dividing line. To the east is the reserved area. I'll speak to what the policy is proposed there. And then to the west is the unreserved areas. That's the dividing line that was created as one of the changes. Oh, have I done something incorrect there? This computer's sensitive to me. I apologize. I'm going to quickly. Oh. Pretty sensitive to me. How do I go back? There we go. All right, my apologies. So what does this mean in terms of creating the reserve area? So development of country residential will not be permitted within the reserve area until either 70% of the lots in the non-reserve area built out, or development can provide public water and wastewater connections. So they are basically the two trigger points that we put in there before the lands to the east of Range Road 232 in context when development of country residential would be permitted.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Yes, absolutely.
Speaking to country residential, if there's a resident in the reserve area that wants to subdivide and put a house on, is according to these policies and what this plan is, are they allowed to do that?
Through you, Madam Chair, through to the councillor, could you repeat that? I couldn't quite hear in the.
Sure. So in the reserve area, if one of these, someone that owns a large lot, like a farmland, wants to subdivide a piece out and put a house on that lot, are they permitted with this plan to do that?
So and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jordan, but my understanding is under the current subdivision regulations, they would be allowed to subdivide out. Would that be correct? Or versus a country residential type?
Yeah, Madam Chair, so an application that was not for a country residential subdivision would be subject to the provisions of its existing zoning. So if it's zoned for agriculture, subdivision would be guided by the provisions of the zoning and not the ASP. It's only when they move forward to do a full country residential development, then you're moving into an outline plan, a rezoning, and then a subdivision following that process.
So moving forward, this computer I am very nervous about. It keeps on wanting to run to the end of the presentation. I'll just move on. So just some updates in terms of, I want to check I got that correct.
We can't read that fast, sorry, Nick.
It keeps on moving. Every time I push one, it just presents the whole. So apologies. In regards to some policy updates regarding water servicing options. So originally we had a policy in there that stated, should a public water supply system be adopted for implementation in the plan area, the county shall also require the installation of a municipal sanitary system. This shall require servicing analysis to be completed in support of a future outline plan application. This has been deleted. What we've added now as additional policy is the development within the ASP shall not allow the use of holding tanks for the purpose of holding water unless connected to a public system or approved well. All water systems shall be sourced from well infrastructure or from municipal water infrastructure. All water systems shall comply with the provincial and federal regulations. I'll try and see if I can do it.
Councillor Lewis?
Does this imply that the county is going to be putting in a water reservoir to connect for water?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the council, no. What it infers is that that's an option in the future as it develops out. Otherwise, it would have to meet the requirements for drawing on a water well, is my understanding.
Not every area has the ability for good water, and the cost for a water well in a subdivision would be extensive to my understanding. I'm not sure that, I just don't agree with that point of the policy.
So if I may, Councillor, my understanding, the intent of this was at the moment you got storage of water tanks. So there was concern about more trucks and the maintenance associated with them. So we present two options. One is that it could be municipally serviced through water. The other is where the water is good, but there's a cost implication to the municipal servicing option. So it could be a timing, it could be a factor. So we create both options. Obviously, where people have the ability for good water, if it can't be done, then the development really can't proceed. And that's how I view it at the moment. Is there anything you'd like to add? I mean, that's what we've been working through in trying to balance the interests of what council had presented. Okay. I'm scared about this. Next one. So there are two policies that were removed, 5.22, which stated if the development intends to use municipal sanitary services, they should be required to demonstrate that private services were not available. 5.24, where a connection to a public water system is created for development, it shall not require connection to a public sanitary system. Such construction shall be in accordance with the county's design standards. These have been deleted and the following updated. And this is in working with administration. So 5.22, once a model process level 4 assessment is completed and suitable locations for a private sewage disposal system and replacement have been identified, no stripping, landscaping, or alterations in situ shall be allowed. 5.25, development should be within the ASP area, shall only allow the use of private sewage disposal systems recognized in the Alberta private sewage systems of practice, except holding tanks. Other types of holding tanks shall not be allowed unless connected to a public system. I'll just hold in case there's questions on that one before I move to the next.
Go ahead.
Sorry, so I'm reading if the updated one for 5.2 is talking about connecting to the new Sarepta Lagoon.
So again, it's similar to the water. It creates the option of you either do it right in terms of providing on-site in accordance with the regulations, doing it properly, or you can't do your development, or there's the option for that public servicing in the long term. So that could be the lagoon. It's just a cost question.
Okay.
So this creates the framework. Remember, we're up here as we move on down.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Continue.
Questions? They were the updates and amendments that we've recommended.
Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair, if I could just close off that the recommendation here today is for first reading. Pending what council wants to do with that recommendation. If first reading is given, we would be looking to schedule a public hearing prior to second and third reading. And we would tentatively schedule that for late January 2023. But having said that, we do believe that the plan is consistent with the regional growth plan and the county's MDP. And so we have provided that recommendation.
Thank you. Just a comment, thank you for the changes related to water and wastewater. I appreciate the care that was taken and how they're worded. And again, that it is a very high level. It does deal with the issue that council had brought forward around trucking in water and trucking out septic, but it doesn't limit what the options might be for a very inventive developer who might be coming in. So I appreciate that because that really was a big issue that we had. I appreciate the reserve area that we're not going to do, for lack of a better term, a sprawl type development, that we're going to try and keep it, or we will keep it limited there until we need to move over, which allows the farmland and the natural scape to stay for as long as we can keep it there. Any further comments or questions related to the Southern Country Residential Area Structure Plan? I am seeing none. Any closing comments? Mr. Price, you're done before we go to debate and all that?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Council. And yes, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. So be looking for a, and on our report, it talks about a recommendation to go to first reading, or that we could provide any other alternative type of direction to administration that we would like. I will put first reading on the floor. I believe that the consultant not only heard what council had said, but also listened to the comments that were made. I think that a public hearing and an opportunity to listen and explore this more is where we need to go. And first reading allows us to do that. So I will put first reading on the floor for the Southern Country Residential Area Structure Plan. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. I currently struggle with the plan the way it is because I understand what you're trying to do, but I think it also it doesn't give full potential for the area. I read through each comment from the residents that did respond, and it seems like there's a lack of understanding at exactly what the plan is trying to do. I got many calls and questions on why we're doing this. I will support first reading today so that we can get proper public engagement and those people can come out and have the conversations with you. I think that's absolutely important. So I will support first reading today.
And thank you for articulating what you had for feedback and the notion that perhaps people don't clearly understand what we're working on with this area structure plan. I appreciate that. And it is information to our administration to be really clear about what level this plan is at and what it's trying to achieve. Okay, anything further? I am seeing none, so I will call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Price. And back by popular demand will be Ms. Weiss. We're now going to limit, reports to 3 per department. And you are going to talk to us about bulk water, septage, and utility write-offs. Is that correct?
That is.
So we're on
correct.
7B6.
Perfect, thank you. Perfect, yes. So this is my last and final write-off recommendation. I put them in 3 so that it was a little smaller too.
Yeah, it actually worked out really well with 3 different reports.
There you go. So this one is bulk water, septage, and utilities, and we're looking to get council approval to write off $5,392.10. The key difference between the bulk water and utilities section is we do have a couple of other controls that we can put in place to encourage payment of the accounts. So for example, we can deactivate the bulk water and the septage access. So for all of these accounts, they were deactivated long ago. We do monitor for individuals who might try and change the spelling of their name, that sort of fun things to open up a secondary account. We watch for that sort of stuff. And in addition, we can also transfer utility accounts to taxes where it's applicable. So if the property is owned, we can transfer it to taxes. So in all of the cases that are listed in the recommendation for the bulk water ones, they're quite old. As you can see, 2017, in some cases, the penalties actually exceed the actual cost of the water. So they've been sitting there for a while. But we do believe we want to do our due diligence, do all the phone calls, do all the letters, and make sure that we've done everything that we could before bringing it for council. The septage one, it is actually from 2013, and it's been sitting in collections for a significant period of time. And the last 6 of them are all utilities. In these ones, most of them have declared bankruptcy, and the last 3 all actually pertain to some of the same property tax write-offs in the mobile home park. So there was the fire and a couple of other things there. So we have exhausted all of the efforts there. The accounts cannot be moved to utility or to taxes, from utilities to taxes. So where administration is recommending that we write those off.
Okay, the top one is interesting. $1,100 in bulk water didn't pay for that. As you say, the penalty is more now than what the original charge was.
That's correct. Through the chair, the purchases were between October 2019 and March of 2020. So as soon as we could suspend that account, we did. But
yeah, and I guess it's a little bit at a time, right? Didn't go out and buy $1,100 right in one day, I don't think. Okay. Councillor Lewis?
Is there not the ability to put a credit card on file?
right now, we do not have that ability.
We should look at that.
We can pay at the bulk water stations now, which is a new feature since a lot of these accounts were became delinquent. So we have added that in the last 5 years.
Oh,
So.
great. Okay. Okay. Any further questions on the write-offs? I am seeing none. Looking for someone to make a move of the recommendation or put another motion on the floor. Councillor Balazer, right, that we approve the write-offs. $5,392.10 for the years 2013 to 2020. Right. Any further comments, questions, or debate? I'm seeing none. All in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you.
I believe we are done, Mr. Coleman. I've been jumping all over the place, but we are done. This is our last meeting prior to our last council meeting or full council meeting prior to break. So for all of those who have been joining us, thank you for joining us. Have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you in the new year. We will adjourn at 2:58.